sad to say. 21 minutes past 5 on 774, I mentioned, and on the ABC across Victoria, I mentioned that call nationally within the Liberal Party for more women, sparked in part, I mean, it's an old conversation, of course, sparked in part by the ALP's adoption of 50% of their pre-selected candidates within 10 years. It's got the Liberal Party federally talking considerably. Kelly ODwyer is a federal Liberal MP here in Melbourne, the seat of Higgins. She's also the parliamentary secretary to the Treasurer. She's not up for quotas. Sharman Stone, though, has got the ball rolling significantly. Kelly ODwyer throwing her voice into the mix as well. I asked her when I spoke to her earlier what her solution is to the problem.
Well, look, I think Christopher Pyne's kicked off a really important debate, and that is that the Liberal Party does need to do more to encourage women to pursue parliamentary careers, particularly in the federal parliament. And we need to be able to demonstrate that women can combine family and a representative career, and that they can do it successfully and at the highest levels. I don't think quotas are the solution to this problem. They are very prescriptive by their nature, but I do think that minimum targets will be critical to us publicly measuring our progress on this important issue and holding ourselves accountable.
What sort of target?
Well, look, I'm not going to give you a figure today, Raf. I think that's something that we need to debate. But I think we need to agree on the principle that targets are important. They're important in helping us to shine a light on this issue, and they're important to helping us measure our progress. And I think that that is a sensible, measured way forward for us to be able to encourage more women into the parliament, and also to be able to make sure that those who do enter the parliament are given every opportunity as well in order to be the very best that they can be.
And what's the point of a target if it isn't mandatory like a quota? How does it help?
Well, because it measures. And I think if you actually measure something, you're more likely to be able to progress. I think if you don't measure, if you have no target, you're unlikely to achieve better outcomes. And I think it's been demonstrated when you look at the business community, when you look at the targets that have been put in place there, they have been able to achieve better outcomes.
Yeah.
And so I think that applies in the political sphere as well.
It's a bit odd. The Victorian Liberal Party, I'm not sure about the other states, to be honest, but the Victorian Liberal Party has on its executive 50% women, 50% men, and I think that's a practice going back decades.
That goes back to the very formation of the party in 1944. It was because of the power of the Australian Women's National League in actually founding the party with Menzies. They had considerable money, considerable membership, and considerable clout. And
so
because of that,
why on
50% of women are in elected positions in the party's organisation.
So if the party itself has a mandatory quota, 50% of the office holders have to be women, why on earth is that not the same for MPs? What's so different between the party and parliamentary representation? Well,
look, we are a grassroots organisation. We are very different to the Labor Party, which can parachute people in a factional deal to particular seats. We're a grassroots organisation that relies on our membership to determine who it is should be pre-selected for a particular seat. And I think that we can't say to our membership that they must, in certain circumstances, pre-select only a woman for that particular seat. They need to be able to pre-select whoever they think is the right person.
But you can say that when it comes to the board that runs the party.
But we can say, well, hang on a second. But what we can say to party members is, we think you need to think really, really carefully about what you think merit is, and what you believe is important for an individual. What capacities you think they need to have in order to best represent that particular seat. When it comes to the party, I mean, there are some positions that are elected that are not restricted to a particular gender, and we do have votes on those, and sometimes it's men and sometimes it's women. But I think our party organisation has historically been very strong in being able to support the advancement of women. We had the very first, in terms of the first woman elected to the parliament in Dame Enid Lyons, the very first woman to hold an economic portfolio with Dame Margaret Guilfoyle. So we've got a really good record to talk about, but there's probably more work to do now.
1300 222 774 is the phone number. Kelly ODwyer is with me. She is an MP here for the Liberal Party in Melbourne, the seat of Higgins. She's also the parliamentary secretary to the Treasurer. 1300 222 774. What should or shouldn't the Liberal Party do? Kelly ODwyer, I know Michael Kroger, the new president here in Victoria, is, given the state election loss, reviewing issues. I don't know for sure how they impact federally, but do you think here in Victoria there's a willingness to take on that idea?
I certainly think that there was an excellent report produced by our party Vice President Caroline Elliott that looked at how we can get more women into the parliament and how we can support women in the parliament. And there are a whole host of elements that are important, including role models and making sure that we provide the right training and advice to people early on in the stages where they might be considering a parliamentary career. That report was recently released to our state council, and I think there's a lot of food for thought in that, and I'm very confident that the party organisation will take some action in relation to it.
Do you think that women in the Liberal Party are afraid to speak up about this?
Well, look, I don't see it as just a women's only issue. In fact, I think it's really important that men talk about this issue as well. And Christopher Pyne actually sparked this debate in his comments last night on the 7:30 report. And we certainly know that people like Malcolm Turnbull and Scott Morrison and others have had a lot to say about the importance of getting women into the parliament and supporting women in the parliament. We've seen men have huge influence on changing corporate Australia through this Broderick's Male Champions for Change. So I don't see it as a women's only issue, but I do think that as a woman in the parliament, as one of the younger women in the parliament, a woman who's just recently had a baby and who is combining family with a parliamentary career and being a representative, I do think I have a responsibility to talk about these issues. And
so there's no fear there in the party?
Well, I have no fear in talking about this issue, and I believe it's incumbent upon people like myself to say to other women that, yes, you can combine your vocation with representing your community in the nation's parliament with having a family. You can do both. And when it comes to talking about this issue, I think nobody should have any fear in shining a light on these issues.
Can I ask you a question on a completely different matter about the Speaker, Bronwyn Bishop? I can't see a legitimate reason, and I'm not sure one's been provided, for her not returning money, her travel to Sophie Mirabella's wedding. Every other Liberal politician that went to that wedding returned the cash. She didn't. This is costing your party a lot in terms of public perception, isn't it?
Well, I think every Member of Parliament knows the entitlement rules, and every Member of Parliament is responsible for their own entitlements and for keeping within their entitlements. And, I'm not going to make a commentary on Bronwyn Bishop's entitlements because I don't know the circumstances surrounding her claims. But I would say this, that every MP needs to act within entitlements, and I think, unfortunately, where that doesn't occur, the judgment of the public, quite rightly, is very harsh.
Do you think she should stay on as Speaker?
Well, I'm not going to get into a commentary on the commentary. I think that's for others to judge. I think she has performed very strongly in the role as Speaker. And in terms of entitlement issues, I know that there is currently a review being done into that by the Finance Department, and I think it's appropriate for that to be concluded.
Kelly ODwyer is the MP for the seat of Higgins. She's the Parliamentary Secretary to the Treasurer as well. Kelly, thanks for your time.
No worries. Thanks, Raf.
Look, some of your